Hi, welcome to Community Focus, and we have a special guest with us today, and that is Dr. Terry Whitt Bailey. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you
Good.
for having me.
Well, we've talked about this for a while, and with
It's
your
quite a while.
busy schedule, we hadn't been able to do it. So finally, we got you here in front of a warm
I know
fire,
it's very nice.
good
Thank you.
fireplace chat, and you have been really um, involved in a lot of things through the years. Can you tell us about what all you've done? You've got a very impressive resume.
Well, I don't know how far back you want me to go, so we'll just talk about Muncie. My family moved here. Well, I guess I should say that I came here to Muncie out of grad school, and I went to UCLA, and my first job out of graduate school was at Ball State University, and I taught in the College of Applied Sciences and Technology for
Mm.
3 years, and got married.
Really?
My husband was from Chicago, and so I packed up and moved to Chicago, and we lived there for 7 years. I taught at Chicago State University for 7 years, and then had an opportunity to come back to Ball State, come back to Muncie in 1997 to work in administration.
Mm.
And so I worked for the executive assistant to the president at Ball State for information technology. And it was because I just played with technology. I enjoyed it, and he wanted somebody to interact with the faculty and staff on campus. And so that's what I did. And when he retired, I became the first interim director of IT, or information technology, for Ball State. And, excuse me, got connected through the president's office. We got a new president. Excuse me, we went from President John Worthen to President Blaine Brownell. He restructured the office, and I became the first chief of staff, or director of executive staff and administrative affairs, if that was the long title, for the president's office, and really enjoyed kind of getting my hands dirty all throughout the campus, which helped me to realize that I really liked seeing the big picture of things. And I did that for the years that President Brownell was in office. Then had an opportunity to go into the nonprofit world. I served on several boards, and so I knew what it was like to be a board member, but didn't quite know about being a staff member. But at that time, the Community Civic Center and the Muncie Center for the Arts was merging downtown in the old Masonic Temple, and I became the person to merge those two organizations into what we now call Cornerstone Center for the Arts,
Mhm.
and was very happy to serve in that capacity. I believe for a little over 6 years. I got a phone call from someone at the Madam Walker Theater Center in Indianapolis, which is very, very similar to Cornerstone Center for the Arts, and was given the opportunity to serve as the president and CEO of the Madam Walker Theater Center for 2 years. Then got another call from a person who was then our state legislator, Dennis Tyler,
Mhm.
and he was recently, or in 2011, he was elected mayor. And after he was elected mayor, he made several appointments, and he asked me if I would be willing to be appointed as the director of community development for the city of Muncie. And I said yes.
Mhm.
And so on January 1st, 2012, I became the director of community development for the city of Muncie. And it allowed me to get back to the community that I really loved and spent quite a bit of time in. And so that's where I am now.
Now, a lot of people don't really know the aspects of community development. Can you explain some of that to them?
Yeah, the title is misleading but informative at the same time. The Community Development Office in most municipalities is the office that oversees the grant, if you will, from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development,
Mhm.
which is HUD. And community development dollars could be community development block grant dollars. They could be home investment partnership dollars. They could be housing for people with AIDS or HOPWA. We don't have dollars in our community for that. We also have emergency solutions grant dollars. I know I'm leaving some out, but there are certain pots of dollars that municipalities can take advantage of. Muncie is considered an entitlement community because we have a predominance of people living low to moderate income. So that's good news and bad news at the same time. It's good news because the federal government gives us dollars to assist with programming and facilities. It's bad news because we have a community of low to moderate income individuals. So we take those dollars that are entitled to our community and we spread them out as best we can to provide some sense of relief for our community. Just in the last 6 years, or I'll say 5 years, 4.5 years, which since we've been in office, of course, lots of federal dollars have dwindled.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that have gone away altogether. We've been very fortunate in the housing and urban development world to only get small, minor cuts. But yeah, they've been cuts to our community. When we first came into office, we received Community Development Block Grant dollars, or CDBG dollars, and Home Investment Partnership dollars. And the first year, 2012, I believe we received $1.5 million in CDBG dollars and about $700,000 in home dollars. This year, 2016, we have about $1.1 million in CDBG dollars and a little over $400,000 in home investment partnership dollars. So you can see that there's less money, but we still have great need, or even greater need as time has gone on. So we're doing our best to spread those dollars as best we can through our community.
People find out about these, and I know you have meetings and public meetings and all
Yes.
that, but can you let people know how to get informed on?
Yes, well, one of the things that we have to make sure that we remind people of is that our dollars, we don't fund individuals. We fund agencies and programs. And so there are some agencies or some funding mechanisms that fund people. We fund the agencies that benefit the low to moderate income people. And so we want folks to know that they're welcome to come and to provide input. We have what's called a consolidated plan, which is a 5-year plan that for us, for the city of Muncie, is 2015 to 2019. So we just submitted our consolidated plan a year ago.
Mm.
And so we have a 5-year plan that came out of a survey, came out of responses and comments from the community, what we think is necessary and what the community feels is going to be important. One of the top issues and concerns was infrastructure. And what I mean by infrastructure are roads,
Mm-hmm.
sidewalks. And for people that live in Muncie, I know they've seen a tree in the middle of a sidewalk. And not only is that aesthetically not beautiful, it's also against ADA compliance, Americans with Disabilities Act compliance. So we are under mandate to make sure that people can safely get down the street, whether it's on a walker, a wheelchair, or a stroller. We want to make sure that we can do that. So some of those dollars are going to be used for infrastructure, and that's part of our consolidated plan. Potholes are things that people, of course, want to fix. Our dollars, though, are used for paving and milling. So we want to redo the streets. We can't just fix a little piece of the street. So we use up to $200,000 of our funds to make sure that infrastructure is put into place. So that's just one of the things that the people have told us. One of the other things that the people have told us is that they want to make sure that our children and youth, and our seniors are cared for. Not that others are not important, but the community has told us not to forget those populations. So we have just this year utilized our dollars in United Daycare, for example. I'll use them as an example. They needed a updated HVAC system, or heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So that would be a facilities request that an agency has put in to benefit low to moderate income individuals. So we will be paying for a new heating system for them. In addition, we have Alpha Center,
Mm-hmm.
which is a day center for seniors, especially for those who are caregivers, to assist them with some time off, or if they have work that they have to do. So they spend their day at the Alpha Center. The dollars that Alpha Center applied for are called public service dollars, which allows for operational dollars to help fund programming for those who are low to moderate income or seniors, for example.
I know back in the past, and I've seen with community development, they had world changers come in at different
Yes.
times, and they helped with people's homes.
You know, World Changers is such a wonderful signature program that we want to continue to assist. They've been here, I should say who they are.
Yeah.
They're a group of individuals that come from all over the United States, young people and adults who come into a community to try to make a change in the community. So they want to interact with people by doing the projects. And so they're minor projects that volunteers can do. It might be assisting with reframing a window, or helping to build a wheelchair ramp, or cleaning up a yard, or the older people, older youth and adults do roofing, minor repairs for roofing. But it's that interaction, that one-on-one interaction with the homeowner, that I think makes World Changers even better. The hub for World Changers in the city of Muncie is Old Town Hill Church, and that is Reverend Bruce Reynolds, and he works in the neighborhoods, whatever those neighborhoods are that they find are of greatest need. I actually don't know what the neighborhoods are for this year, but we meaning the Community Development Office, has assisted with that for many years, and we're very proud to be a part of that.
That's I've seen them do phenomenal things in fixing up folks' houses, like you said, wheelchair ramps,
Yes.
porches, roofs, and things like that on houses that those folks wasn't able to do themselves or have done at the time. So that was really great.
Yes, and the partnership, I should also mention that Muncie Community Schools partners with them to provide shower space, and then the church
Lodging.
the church provides the lodging. I'm not sure how they're going to be doing it this year, but the community works together. Muncie Sanitary District provides water bottles for the young people during the day. And I should say, it's not just 5 people. There are like 100 people
It's an army of them.
that come to our community, and they're really helping to make a difference, and we're very grateful for what they've
And
done.
nice folks, and
Oh, yeah.
very faith-based. And
Yes.
just a good bunch of people. And it's really good to see young people
It is good to see
in
young
there
people.
pitching in doing that.
Mhm.
It really is.
Yes.
So now you have different, as you said, different kind of divisions of community development. It's not just one thing where you funnel money out. You do different things.
Well, and we could do that. I mean, there are some communities that's what they do. In fact, there are some communities that put all of their money into infrastructure. So they have one project, and they put every last bit of their entitlement into infrastructure. We have chosen to do it differently. And so I mentioned the public service dollars. I mentioned Alpha Center. This year, we are actually recommending funding for 14 nonprofit agencies.
Really?
So Alpha Center is only one of 14. We have Bridges Community Services, Motivate Our Minds, the Roy C. Bewley Center, the Unity Center, Teen Works. And so these are agencies that are benefiting low to moderate income individuals in the work that they do for our community. And again, that's a different philosophy. We only are allowed by HUD to use 15% of our dollars. So if you remember, the CDBG I said was about 1.16 $1.1 million. We're only allowed to use 15% of those dollars, and I believe that pot of dollars is about $165,000. It sounds like a lot of money, but when you spread that over 14 agencies, it's not. But we believe that there's such good work going on in our community. We want to do the best that we can to provide some funding for them. And so that's the public service pot of dollars. We also are only allowed to spend up to 20% of our dollars on admin and planning, making sure that we're getting the job done through our office and paying for those things that happen within our office. Another pot of dollars that we utilize, again, this is CDBG dollars, is clearance and blight. And so this particular year, I believe we're spending a little over $230,000 on clearance and blight, or what people would call demolition or deconstruction, which are two different things.
Right.
And so with the CDBG dollars, $230,000 will demolish about 20 to 25 properties. So people are saying, well, there's a whole lot more in our community that needs to be demolished. Well, we do what we can with the funds that we're being given, and we try to take down those houses that are in the worst shape. We also are now looking at those houses that are chemically hard to rehabilitate. So there may be a meth house or a house that has been burned to a point where it's too hard to rehab. And so an emergency order or an order for demolition, it comes actually from our building commissioner's office. And the building commissioner makes those recommendations of those 20 properties with the CDBG dollars. And then we use those dollars to demolish or deconstruct. And deconstruct is finding things within those properties that can be used again. So there may be beautiful doorknobs. There may be a fireplace mantle, and I've seen those too. There may be sinks or bathtubs or beautiful doors, heavy doors. And so those are taken apart and taken and rehabilitated or repurposed in other projects.
Now, you mentioned the building commissioner's office
Yes.
on those. So the unsafe housing, which is part of community development.
It's actually a part of the building commissioner,
So
the building commissioner's responsibilities.
I see.
Now, the building commissioner, he has another title, which is called Enforcement Authority.
Mhm.
And he is the enforcement authority over the Unsafe Building Hearing Authority.
I see.
And so again, he's the one that makes the recommendations or tells us what needs to be done. So we don't decide, we meaning Community Development Office, we don't decide. We may work in concert with him based on information that has been shared with our office, but there is information, files that are written about properties. The Unsafe Building Hearing Authority meeting occurs monthly, and people come to either say to this authority of, I think there are 5 individuals, I believe that I can rehabilitate this house, or the authority may say it's beyond repair, this needs to come down. And then we will either use our dollars, or if they want to use their dollars, they can demolish the house.
Now, there's been some controversy, and I don't understand all of it, so maybe you can clarify this. Wrong address or something with house. What happened with that?
Actually, I don't know what happened with that. So I don't. I wish I could share more information. I actually don't know what happened with that. It sounds to me like there was some human error that may have happened. I was not involved with that, so I can't answer that question. I don't have the answer to
But
that.
like, there's houses, and you mentioned say emergency order, and from what I understand, because some of this even went through the Board of Works, which I'm on, but
Yes.
there's say a fire or a house that was ready to fall into another house or something. So there's emergency order to tear down that house, and that's perfectly normal,
Yes.
I guess.
Well, an emergency order may not allow for the Unsafe Building Hearing Authority to meet. And so that's why the Board of Works will see it.
Right.
Because if it's something that happened, Board of Works meets weekly.
Right.
The Unsafe Building Hearing Authority meets monthly.
Right.
But it still comes from the Enforcement Authority, who is the building commissioner. So we're not going to make any decisions unless the building commissioner is involved.
So you have some literature there.
I do have some literature here. This is based on a PowerPoint that we shared with the Muncie Redevelopment Commission. This is April, I think it was maybe in February. And one of the things that we wanted to do with that group is to share that there are different types of demolitions, different pots of dollars, and different processes that go in place. And actually, we've already discussed the CDBG dollars. We have enough money every year, give or take, to demolish or deconstruct 20 to 25 properties. But there are some rules that are in place for us, some local, state, and federal guidelines that we have to follow in order to make sure that we can utilize those dollars. We have to make sure that we've done a 106 environmental review. If there's any asbestos in the place, we've got to make sure that it's removed properly. And all of that costs money. But we utilize the CDBG clearance and blight dollars to do that. There are actually 4 different pots of dollars that are used for demolition. One of the other pots of dollars that we've seen quite a bit of motion activity is through the Muncie Sanitary District. So there have been lots of demolitions that have actually happened with the Muncie Sanitary District, but it's based on the levee issue and the Corps Army of Engineers. And so they have to make sure that they are following a federal mandate that's been put in place for them. And so they have acquired properties in those areas that they've had to do stormwater separation and building up the levee. And so there are people in the last, I'm going to say 9 months, that have seen in their neighborhoods lots of houses coming down. That's not the CDBG pot of dollars. That is the Muncie Sanitary District pot of dollars. But again, at the end of the day, it's still demolition of properties. And so we wanted to make sure that people realize that the Muncie Sanitary District is also doing demolition. CDBG is doing demolition. Then the Unsafe Building Hearing Authority has the ability to do demolitions through the dollars that they receive through civil penalties. I can't say it. Civil penalties. And the dollars, those are dollars that, people that have been penalized for things that they haven't done in their properties over time. So that's a different pot of dollars. And it's not as big of a pot of dollars as any of the others that I've spoken of. And there is usually enough money to demolish up to 5 properties using unsafe building civil penalties dollars. That's the third pot of dollars. The fourth pot of dollars is the pot that people, I think, are most interested in. And that's the pot of dollars that are coming through the hardest hit funds. Yes.
I've heard that.
Yes, the Blight Elimination Program. And that's the pot of dollars that we receive from a different federal office, and that's through the U.S. Department of Treasury. We applied for those dollars in 2014 and 2 times, and we received a little over $4 million to demolish. I think that number originally was 204 properties. I think we're now up to 222 properties. However, the rules and the hoops that we have to jump through for the U.S. Department of Treasury, now that's the federal part. The state office is the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, or we call them IHCDA. So IHCDA is the state agency that we applied for dollars through. Even though it was U.S. Department of Treasury dollars, we got the dollars through IHCDA, and so the state of Indiana was able to provide dollars to lots of different communities. Muncie was one of them. However, the hoops have been high and the flame is large, not as big as the flame here, but the flame is large, because with this particular pot of dollars, the partnering agencies must own the properties. But it's not as simple as me writing a check to you and saying I want to buy your house. We have to go through what's called title searches, and a clean title has to be acquired, which means there has to be research done as far back as 30 years to make sure that there's nobody else in the lineage of the property that may still have some ownership rights, or there may be some fines or some liens. And so that's a process that takes time. 120 days is a time that it takes to make sure that everything is clean. And then from there, once the title is given over to us or to the county, then there's a 30-day time frame to make sure that all the pieces are in place, all the letters have been sent out, and then we can have what's called clean title. So there are some people that are saying, wow, it's taking so long, nothing's being done, we're sitting on this pot of dollars. A lot of work is being done behind the scenes. If we're going back 30 years, there may be people that have passed away. There may be people that are incapacitated. There may be people with new addresses and new phone numbers that are different than what was originally on the deeds. So we're trying to find those individuals all the way back to make sure that we can get what's called the clean title. Otherwise, we cannot demolish those properties. That number has been fluid because we've had to take some properties off the list, but we've been able to add some properties to the list. And so as of this morning, we just had our Muncie Redevelopment Commission meeting. As of this morning's report, we will have 63 properties ready to move forward on April 19th.
Really?
So once we get that deed, then we have other parts now, because we'll have to have what's called a pre-bid meeting, so that those people who are interested in being a part of this demolition process and end result process will get to learn about what they can do to be a part of, it. And then we start rocking and rolling. I've been telling people that we're at the top of this mountain now, and it's getting ready to go down really fast. And with this first set of 63, once we go through we also have to go through a process, and I know this is really tedious, but we have to go through a process with IHCDA, and they have to walk through every step of how we go from the pre-bid to the end result to make sure that there's either grass or clover or some final building at some point. So they have to walk through a sample set with us. So this sample set will be happening starting now. Because we as a community have done demolitions in the past. We've had our own demo packets, and we've been very successful. We don't anticipate that there will be any problems with this, but they have to do what they've done in every community.
Mm-hmm.
The communities have had issues. This has been very difficult because the process has been different than what we've had to do with CDBG, what we've had to do with Unsafe Building Hearing Authority, and what the Muncie Sanitary District has done. So it's different hoops, it's a different process, and we just really wanted the community to know that work is being done. It's being done behind the scenes. Our attorneys have had a lot of work to do. We've got staff that is working to make sure that pieces are in place, so when it's time for us to go and really move quickly, we have all of our ducks in a row.
That's great.
Yeah.
You guys are really moving along on that.
I believe that we are. We have felt like, it's been a slow process, but sometimes, it feels that way. It feels like, we're just spinning our wheels, and sometimes you have to sit still. You've got to wait for the 120 days or the 30 days or the 90 days, and we're bound by Indiana code.
So can you show us some of the...
Well, actually, I kind of talked through it.
Yeah.
The four that I shared were the Muncie Sanitary District,
Right.
the Community Development, CDBG,
Mhm.
dollars.
I thought you had pictures of it.
Oh, there aren't any pictures. I'm sorry. I should have brought pictures. I
Yeah,
can
I'd like to
maybe
see
send
pictures.
some pictures. No, this is just a dry PowerPoint,
Aw.
gray, black, and white.
Some
That was
notes.
my information that I actually sort of memorized, so I didn't really look at it.
But you didn't need that.
No, I
Cheat sheets.
didn't need the cheat sheet. But I just wanted people to be aware, because we've had some questions about, well, how come this neighborhood had all these houses torn down? Well, that was a sanitary district. Or why did this house get torn down right away? Well, it had a fire. Well, how come this property, you said it was gonna happen right away? Well, it's a part of the hardest hit funds blight elimination program. We have to wait by state statute.
And being out in the neighborhoods, I've heard those questions
Yeah.
too, because they see something going on over here and wondering why it's not going on over here, and don't realize there's these different entities
Yes.
that's working, not just, well, we're
Mhm.
going to pick and choose.
Well, there are certain properties that fit better in certain categories. And so the sanitary district may have the need to make sure that there is a house that gets down so that they can work on the stormwater separation.
Mhm.
And so it might have been on our CDBG demo list. And they say, oh, well, can we go ahead and take care of that? And we'll say yes, or vice versa. So we all are working together, and that's exciting too.
Mhm.
So it's not that, we just hear about what the sanitary district is doing. We're a part of that process, and we appreciate, what
So
Nikki
the
is
right
doing
hand
there.
knows what the left hand's doing.
We do our very best to do that, and I think early on we realized that we needed to start having those conversations,
Mhm.
because I don't think in the past we were. So we realized that we could do better if we each knew what each other was doing, so that we could work together.
Good. Well, I've learned a lot about community development, and I'm up there sometimes, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that you don't always see.
That's very true.
And this working together and these different entities working together is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to share just one other thing, if I
Mhm.
could. There's another collaboration that I think is really working well, and it's a collaboration with Pathstone, Eco Rehab, Habitat for Humanity, and Home Savers. Part of the dollars that we provided this year for facilities through our CDBG fund is for this collaboration to do minor home repairs. There are things that world changers can't do because they're only here for a week.
Mhm.
We need this collaboration year round. If a furnace goes out, if there's a hole in a roof, if there's a wheelchair that's needed, if there's something that's going on inside of a home, the floor needs to be joisted up. We've got this collaboration now. Again, they work separately to do some pretty amazing things, but they're realizing that if they work together, they can get more done. And so we provided a hefty amount to that collaboration this year, and we're excited to see what they will be able to do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming over and sharing all that with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
And I'm glad people, I know I got some information. I hope our viewing audience did too. So, well, thanks again, and glad to have you finally on our
Yes,
fireside
thank you.
chat.
Thank you, and thank you for the fire.
Felt good today,
It sure
didn't it?
did, yeah.
April. Yeah. Well, thank you, and see you next time. Community Focus would like to thank the following underwriters for their help and support with our productions. Put your business up for everyone to see. Hometown Outdoor Advertising, 288-9000. Wishbone Gifts Incorporated, corner of Walnut and Jackson Street in Muncie. Crime Stoppers, tips can pay up to $1,000. 286-4050. You don't have to give your name. McGalliard Guns and More, 800 West McGalliard, Muncie, Indiana, 765-288-GUNS. Parson Mortuary Incorporated, 801 West Adams Street, Muncie, Indiana, 765-747-1100. Muncie Sanitary District, serving Muncie since 1965, 300 North High Street, Muncie, Indiana, 765-747-4863. This show is produced by Millennium Productions Incorporated. Thanks for watching.